That's a little better, a little headroom. I got almost a wolf blitzer going on up here. Hey everybody, Adam Savage in my cave answering questions from tested patrons. The subject is on my time at Industrial Light and Magic. And this question comes from C. Morgan, who wants to know, when at ILM, what were the most memorable walkthroughs of celebrities or other VIPs? And what was the typical reaction from workers on the floor? So you know how you've heard certain movie stars don't want people to look at them? The fact is that on any given movie set, I'm not sure that really needs to be specifically spelled out. Film crews in general are highly professional. I was going to say we, but I haven't been on a film crew in a long time, so I guess I'm going to say they. Film crews deal with famous people all the time. They are cognizant of how hard the work is for someone who's carrying a franchise, and famous people absolutely would come through the model shop all the time, and we were always really chill about it. In fact, almost to a point of absurdity. Like you pretend not to notice to a certain extent. You wanted to create a space for them. Also, you wanted to be cool about it. I have met many famous people on walkthroughs. The first one I ever met was Don Johnson. Don Johnson, when they were gearing up for Nash Bridges, Don took a tour through Jamie's model shop at Colossal Pictures. And I remember specifically, I was using the lathe, and I'm cutting some small parts. I think I was making tiny, tiny beer bottles for a commercial. And I knew he was coming, but I also had a job to do, so I wasn't waiting for him or anything. And he comes in, I see him come in with his people, a whole entourage of people. They're all on the phone. This is early too, 95. They're all on cell phones. And at some point, I felt a presence to my right, and I looked over, and it was Don Johnson, and he was like, "Hey," and I said, "Hey," and he said, "Looks cool." I said, "Thanks, nice to meet you." And he said, "See you around." So that was the first one. Among the people that came through ILM, we got everybody, because the model shop was the sexy part of the tour. It was almost always the end of the tour, because there's only so much touring you could do through a sea of computer desks that people are sitting at. I mean, it's certainly great to see all the toys and stuffed animals that CG artists have at their desks, and each desk is a real demonstration of the person that you're talking to. I love that part. But the model shop was where stuff got actually made. It's where you could see a spaceship or handle a prop. So yeah, we were the end of every tour, which meant that we usually got people in a pretty good mood. They'd spent 2 hours getting the basic tour, and now they got to see the cool stuff. Sean Penn and Robin Wright came through with their kids once, but he's local. That wasn't a super surprising visit. Anthony Daniels, whenever Star Wars people came through, that was really neat. Anthony Daniels was surpassingly lovely to everybody in the shop and took pains to say hello to everybody. It was really, really sweet. Ray Park was the same. Also really, really cool. And I have since run into him at different cons. A lovely human being. Clint Eastwood came through once. We were working on Space Cowboys. And we were building the space shuttle and the Russian satellite for Space Cowboys. And Clint likes to work lean and mean, so we had a tight budget on this, and we were still doing killer work. Some of the best work I've ever done was on that space shuttle. And Clint came through, I think, after we'd finished most of the shuttle, but before we'd gotten started building the satellite. And so Lauren Peterson was the job lead on that. And Lauren had mocked up the satellite in foam core with its big solar array, because we were just laser cutting that at the time. And he called he instead of putting the Russian name of the satellite, he called it the Rowdy Yates, which, if I'm remembering correctly, is the character that Clint played on Gunsmoke when he showed up on that show before he reached international stardom in Sergio Leone's films. And it was fun to watch Clint walk into a room, see that, and smile and tip his hat to Lauren. That was delightful. Lauren Peterson, absolutely delightful to talk to because that guy has sat in meetings with everyone. He is like, talked to Spielberg and everybody else in meetings about modeling. Those old timers at ILM, I don't mean to call them old timers, but the original group have some wonderful stories on that front. But my single favorite walkthrough at ILM was when NSync came through. They were recording an album at Skywalker Sound, or doing some mixing at Skywalker Sound, and I think they did a cameo in episode 1. The model shop had, or it could have been episode 2. I'm sorry, it doesn't really matter to the story. At any rate, they did a cameo in one of the Star Wars films, and they were getting a tour, and they came through the shop, and they were, Justin Timberlake was not in the group that day. He was the only one missing, but all the rest of the members of NSYNC were walking through the shop and getting led through, and they were moving through the kitchen into the desks area. In those days, where the model shop was on the south side of Kerner Boulevard, when you left the kitchen, the very first desk you encountered was Grant Imahara's. And he had this desk that faced you as you left the kitchen. So you always could see Grant working on whatever Santa's Workshop electronics amazement he was conjuring. And this was also after the first BattleBots had aired. And Grant had competed with Deadblow down in Long Beach at the first BattleBots competition. And what was unknown at the time was that NSYNC were huge fans of BattleBots in general, and they walked out of the kitchen, looked over, saw Deadblow on Grant's desk, and they went, "Deadblow!" And then they all looked up, and Grant was standing right there, and they all went, "Grant Imahara!" It was so awesome. So awesome. You've got to understand that, like, Grant was part of the group of laser. Oh, he loved pop culture. He loved NSYNC. We loved the Spice Girls, right? Like the idea that this super band were fans of Grant's. Nobody was more over the moon about it than Grant himself. It was really, really delightful to see. That's my best, famous person walking through ILM story. Trying to think if there's any others. No, I think that's about it. Thank you guys for these awesome questions. C. Morgan, good question. I feel like you kind of knew I had a story there. It's a really good lead-in, and I appreciate that about you. Tested patrons, please keep submitting your questions, and I will always answer them. Thank you guys so much. See you next time.